Well, it looks like our boards have headed into the weekend a little earlier. We'll get an update of the correct figures of exactly where the JSE is trading. But to get into some analysis, I'm joined by Grant Gilburt, who is a stock broking portfolio manager at Nedbank Private Wealth. Grant, thanks so much for your time.
Hi.
Right, so the Star deal with Christo Visa, we knew it was coming, but it's finally come to head.
That's right. So, of course, as soon as Star listed, the intention was for them to obviously exercise their call options, take the stake in Shoprite, but most importantly, take that 50.6% voting pool for Shoprite. So really the direction for Shoprite will be headed up by Star.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think he's doing it, or the Star team is doing it now?
Well, I think if you have a look at all deals that Steinhoff are involved in, it tends to look at scale and efficiencies, and typically it's back-end loaded. Mm-hmm. So there was a time limit on the options, so I think there was a bit of time pressure with regards to when they could exercise the options. Mm-hmm. But the overall theme is still a lot of integration and efficiencies on the back end.
And just an update, I mean, this is pretty much a done deal, so not much headwinds in terms of regulatory approval needed there.
No, I think we can definitely consider it to be a done deal. Okay. I don't think Star would have listed if they didn't tie up all these agreements.
All right, and just lastly, for a Star shareholder, what does this mean for them again?
Well, I think it's you really get access to Shoprite, right, their distribution, and I think most importantly their growth in the African markets. Shoprite's been extremely strong in that area. South Africa, they've been growing quite considerably, really good margin, and I would say a defensive margin, but I guess it's most importantly the African expansion and the African footprint that Star can now roll out some of the other brands possibly.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the banking sector. Barclays, it's also, we know that it has been reducing its stake in its African unit. It's now at 14.9%. It says that this is the final sale.
Yes, I mean, a lot of overhang has been in the share price, given the rumours about Barclays selling down. We thought that the majority was already done, but quite interestingly, I think what you really need to do is have a look at who's buying these shares, and the PIC and a BE vehicle. I think that's very important, and it also speaks to, I think, the intentions of what could happen with Barclays going forward.
Explain.
Well, where they're going to be positioned in the market, we know that the government's been looking for a bank. So could they possibly become a bit more pressure on Barclays through the PIC? These are questions that will have to be answered.
All right, so I suppose tread with caution right now with that counter.
I think so, but I think all the banks are the same, really. I think you really need to take a view on the political environment and whether or not South Africa can return to any substantial form of GDP growth. I mean, that would really set the tone for the entire banking sector, not only Barclays. And
talking about that political environment, the market is taking a view on the political environment, and it's pricing everything into the rand. So the market thinks that Ramaphosa winning is a done deal.
Yeah, I think if 2016 taught us anything, is that the financial markets are really bad at pricing in political risk. And if we just talk about some of the international political environments, Brexit, and of course President Trump coming into the presidency. But yes, it does seem that that is what the market is pricing in. I do think that the rand is going to be extremely volatile leading up to the conference, but also as all the different provinces start nominating their preferred candidates. I think we'll start seeing that reflected in the rand. But I think most importantly for the market, it does seem that the conference is going to go ahead. So if we just take a view back, about 3 months ago, the market was quite uncertain if the conference was going to go ahead. So most importantly, the conference is going ahead, and I think that's why you're also seeing the rand being quite strong.
And in fact, Karabo is out there in Mpumalanga covering some of those conference matters. But let's take it to global factors, because I mean we did have a big week for global factors as well. There's some US tax progress there. Perhaps you can give us the developments.
That's right. So, I mean, the American markets have been extremely strong in anticipation of some fiscal stimulus, really driven by these tax cuts that President Trump has been promising. And if you can remember, I mean, he's been in the office for a year now, and he hasn't achieved much on the legislative front. So he really is trying to push through these tax cuts. But it does seem that there was a bit of a hiccup last night in the Senate. So hopefully they can resolve that and get these tax cuts through. And I also think that's why you're seeing the rand quite strong against the dollar today. If the Senate can't get this through, I think the dollar will continue to stay quite weak.
Well, Grant, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time. Indeed, the U.S. markets have been strong. The Dow actually broke through the 24,000 mark yesterday for the very first time, but we wrap it there with our markets with Grant Gilburt, stockbroking portfolio manager at Nedbank Private Wealth.